I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, September the 25th. What's the reaction going to be this week to the things that happened late last week? Our fats come in as good as we had hoped, and maybe even a little better real late in the week. But the cattle on feed report come in a little bit bearish as your analysts missed the placements once again. But I still think that your early week high volume feeder cattle auction should be a little bit higher, especially on what true yearling cattle are left out there, and on some of your big feeding calves that are long time weaned and not too fleshy. But look at the board for last week. Live cattle futures, the October contract ended the week at 111.57, up $3.82 for the week. Feeder cattle, October there, 156.10 to close the week. That's up $5.45 from the previous week. Your fats, they started selling them. We knew they were going to be better. We hoped we'd get $1.08. We did get $1.08. I think we found a bottom in your cash fat cattle now for the season, and should start escalating up from now on. But that $1.08 come in late in the morning, early in the afternoon on Friday, and that's sure $2 higher. Your guys in the northern plains kind of dug in, especially out west, and waited till after the cattle on feed report come out, and then it was a little bearish, but they still got what they wanted. They got more. They started selling at $1.09 in Nebraska, $1.09.5 late on Friday, especially out west, western Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming feedlot areas. And that's $3.50 higher than the previous week. That's very good. Your dress trade was 170 to 172 in the northern plains. That's $3 to $5 higher. Slaughter was good for last week, just 5,000 off of the previous week, which was a record for the most so far this year, and 41,000 more than the same week a year ago. Box beef cutout values kind of held in there strong, steady all week. Average of last week's trade come in at 191.98 on a choice carcass. That's up 95 cents. Selects were down 6 cents at 188.44, with a narrow spread between choice and select of $3.54, and pretty good movement at over 700 loads. Cattle on feed report, I tell you what, I've preached it and I've talked to them about it. I'm not a guru, but I was involved in it long enough. 16 years ago, I revamped that National Feeder Cattle Report, where it quotes every head that moved through an auction in a week's time on that National Feeder Cattle Summary. You take that nationwide auction quote for the placement month and compare it to the previous year, and that's where you start, and you can tweak from there. But they just continue to not do that. I told you guys it was going to be, around 100%. It was sure going to be more than the 97 that the analysts had guessed, and sure enough, it come in more than that at 102.6 on your placement. And just like I say, somebody on there of the analysts, the low on the range was 88.3, and you just wonder, well, what market they were looking at, or what industry. But your inventory September 1st actual come in at 103.6. The average of the analyst guess on the estimate was 102.7, which they were probably pretty close, but when they missed the placements low, that pulled them down that much on that. Marketing's come in right at that at 106, but soon we're going to be able to use this Cattle Market Central market information, just like we're using this real-time index has a precursor to your CME index. But we just get more sales on this on an automated basis every day, and it won't be too long before we got a good enough handle on these auction receipts that we should be able to get a lot better expectation of what those placements are, and where the cattle are at and where they're moving. But you look at the cash feeder cattle market for last week, ended with your auction market steady to $5 higher. Your calves were uneven. Your real-time index on Beef Market Central, based on the 800-pound steer, come in at 152.96. That was up a little over $3 for the week, which goes right into your steady to 5 higher. Now your calves were fairly uneven. Northern Plains guys are starting to find some big calves that they like to feed, and that April board looks good. A lot of those, they slow feed them. They won't be done until then. They're picking around on the big calves there. Those big fancy strings of calves, like I quoted earlier in the week out of Torrington, Wyoming, way over $2 a pound for some weighing, in the threes, pretty deep. But down in the southern plains, Just the local calves, they're not selling very well. They're not getting the reputation strings there yet. It's still hot there. A lot of them are still sowing wheat. They're not quite ready for calves. A lot of them are starting to order calves out of the southeast to have them delivered in and start straightening them up for wheat. But the Southern Plains calves were just cheaper around. But you look at an individual quote late in the week on Friday at Bloomington, Wisconsin at the Livestock Exchange just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 56 head of steers weighed 929 at 152.75. That's your feeder flash for Monday.